It was just so awkward. I didn't know where to look. I just wanted it to be over. Hello, it's me, James, obviously. So if you're like me and you get to a Friday evening and you've got typically a takeaway in front of you and you think, now I want to watch something on Netflix while I'm eating this, but what do I watch? This video is for you. I have picked 5 Netflix shows that I've seen recently and loved. These are my 5 recommendations for what you can watch on Netflix this weekend. Number 5, What If? What If is kind of the best and worst thing that I've seen on Netflix this year. It's something you can't help but watch, and you hate it, but you also kind of love it. It's about these 2 newlyweds who go to this incredibly rich woman, Anne Montgomery, played by Renée Zellweger, and they want an investment from her. So the woman in the marriage, called Lisa, she is a biotech scientist, and she wants a huge investment to launch her startup firm, trying to find a cure for, I think it's cancer or some kind of illness that her sister suffered and died from. The catch is that Anne Montgomery promises to give her the investment if she can spend a mysterious night with Lisa's husband. Everyone is contractually obliged to not talk about it. So when the man comes home to Lisa, he's a changed man and he's lost it. And he's not allowed to talk about it, otherwise Anne Montgomery will take the money away. It is a really guilty pleasure, but it does also explore really serious issues. It looks at substance abuse, it looks at child abuse, domestic abuse. In terms of the setting, it's kind of like a really glammed up version of EastEnders. In EastEnders you have people throwing insults at each other, you know, calling people like a silly car. But in this one, I mean, the insults go as far as Anne Montgomery's actually firing arrows at her enemies. Stick around to the last episode because it's so ridiculous. So all in all, there are 10 episodes and they're all an hour long. Number 4 is Dead to Me. Now, Dead to Me is about 2 women who meet at a support group for people that have lost loved ones. Christina Applegate playing the bitchy Jen. And then you've got Linda Cardellini, who, like, I can't not see Velma from Scooby-Doo when I look at her. She plays Judy, so you've got Jen and Judy. So you've got Jen, her husband has been killed in a hit and run, and then you've got Judy, whose husband has died of a heart attack. One's really bitchy and cynical and very blinkered. The other one is more emotional and tender and more open, and they just kind of bounce off each other. So in terms of the plot, Jen reveals that she isn't sleeping very well, and so Judy offers to give her her mobile number to contact, and also goes around her house and just keeps her company, and that's how the friendship is formed. It's all a bit too good to be true, and you kind of know something's going to go wrong, and you always have Judy going to Jen's house. But in episode 1, for the first time, Jen says to Judy, I'm going to come to your house, and Judy panics, and Jen gets to Judy's house, and this isn't a spoiler or anything, but Jen gets to Judy's house, and Judy's husband opens the door. And he's not dead. Dun, dun, dun. And then at the end of episode 1, you see Judy at her storage unit, I guess, and her car's in there, and in her car has got a massive person-sized dent. Knowing that Jen's lost her husband in a hit and run. There are 10 episodes, and they're each 30 minutes long, so get some naughty nibbles, and that's your Saturday sorted, really. 3rd on my list, The Society. It's like a modern retelling of Lord of the Flies. So it follows a story of how a group of teenagers living in Connecticut in America go on a school trip, and halfway along the journey, the coaches turn back round and say the trip's cancelled, and they go back to the school where they picked them up from, and all of the adults have gone. But it looks at how they adapt and how they live when there are no adults and therefore no consequences. It explores teenage pregnancy, drug and alcohol abuse, misuse of firearms, domestic abuse, murder, and sibling rivalry, and also the human instinct to survive. So you have Catherine Newton, and she plays Ally. She becomes the leader of everything. She's been forced into power, into this leadership, and she doesn't really want it. You like the character because you understand how fair she's being, but she also makes some mistakes that she probably shouldn't do, but I think she's just so focused on the collective good. And then as the show goes on, it kind of looks at how they're trying to overthrow her. So in the show, you have one group who's dedicated to partying, and then you have the other half of the children who are are stockpiling food and planning meals to make it all last. And as each episode goes on, you kind of think, who's going to survive this episode? In terms of the aesthetics and how it's been shot, I really liked it. The only thing I've got to criticise really is it kind of looked like the town was still lived in by adults. You kind of feel like an adult's going to walk out at any moment, so it doesn't have that desolate, eerie feeling that maybe Lord of the Flies does. Again, there are 10 episodes and they all range between 50 minutes and an hour. Number 2, Sex Education. The show is genuinely one of the funniest shows I've ever seen. It made me cry with laughter and cry with emotion. It has got everything you really need in a TV show that just to make you feel really good. I actually think it's one of the most realistic and accurate coming of age dramas out at the moment. So the show is about Otis, who is played by Asa Butterfield, and he is 16 years old and he can't masturbate, even though his mum, who's played by Gillian Anderson, is a sex therapist, and she constantly meddles with Otis's private life and sexual life. In Otis's school, there is a school bully, of course there always is. He's having sexual performance anxiety. Otis, because his mum's a sex therapist, he kind of knows quite a bit about it, and he kind of inadvertently helps him. And so Maeve, who's played by Emma Mackey, offers to set up a clinic, a sexual clinic with him, advising people on how to do sex and or how to be in sexual relationships. Just be warned, you do see a penis in the first episode, and you do see boobs, and I was watching it with my mum at first. It was just so awkward. I didn't know where to look. I just wanted it to be over. The show ultimately is looking at coming of age in high school. It handles really sensitive topics as well. It looks at teenage abortion and revenge porn, which is the big thing at the moment in school, I think. It must be, with Snapchat and all this rubbish. Slut shaming, I think it's called. And it really tenderly explores sexuality. And there's a character, Eric, and he's a breath of fresh air, and he just dresses how he wants to dress. He doesn't care. The cast is all amazing. I can't name each person because I'll be here forever, but they're all top of their game. They're all fantastic. In terms of the setting, it's a little bit jarring. It's basically an English show with English accented people, but they're in a school that's really American. It feels like it's set in the 80s because one of them, Eric, wears a shell suit. So you don't really know what the era or what the time period and stuff is. There are 8 episodes, and they're all about 50 minutes long, so it's definitely worth a binge. Number 1, top of the list, and this is probably the best thing that I've seen on Netflix ever. It's a mini-series, and it's called When They See Us. The show is based around the real-life case in 1989 of the Central Park jogger attack, where she was brutally assaulted and raped by a group of youths. The show focuses on the suspects that were accused of it. So you've got 5 young black and Hispanic men who were accused of attacking this woman, and they became known as the Central Park 5. So you see the 5 boys on trial, I think it's at the end of the first episode, and despite none of the evidence pointing to them, and none of their DNA matches the DNA that was found, they all get found guilty of it, even though they're completely innocent. And it's horrific. The series looks at each of the 5 boys in prison and looks at their life and how they're treated. And on the outside of prison, it looks at how the families of each of these 5 boys are campaigning to get them out and to prove that they're innocent, and the families have all just been torn apart and their lives have been ruined because of all these lies told by the police. I think it's a really, really important story to know about. If you know the events in real life, then you'll know how it's going to end, but if you don't, I'm not going to say because I didn't know, and it was a really big surprise to me how it ended. I think I cried most of the way through the final episode. It has got an incredible cast, and it's received, I think, 11 nominations at the Emmys this year. And there's also, on the tail end of that show, there's a real life interview with Oprah Winfrey, who interviews the 5 people accused and what their experiences were. And that's definitely worth a watch as well. For the whole series, there are 4 episodes. They're each about an hour, 10 minutes long, and the finale, like the 4th episode, is about 90 minutes long. It's the best thing I've watched personally this year, and I think it will be the best thing you've watched as well. So there we are, thank you for watching. I hope you have an idea of what you're going to watch this weekend. So those are my top 5 things, and just to summarise, you've got What If, Dead to Me, forgotten already, The Society, Sex Education, and When They See Us. Leave me a comment on how you found this, and if you watched one of the shows, what you thought of it. And also leave a comment on anything you might want me to review in the future, and I will do it. See you next time.